All right. I've never been so happy to hear Katrina's voice. um, so thank you so much, Katrina, for those insightful tips. Happy Saturday to everyone, and welcome to our 2022 virtual mid-year meeting. And as you all can see, all the different pieces that have to go into making a smooth and efficient virtual mid-year meeting. My name is Abray Connor, preferred pronouns she, her, hers, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the YLD Assembly Speaker this year. I live in Sacramento, California, where I serve as the Health Directing Attorney of the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley. Thank you to our YLD staff, Austin Gruthius, Sylvia Knox, Bree Jones, Donna Nesbitt, Stephen Brothers McGrew, Teo, and others, along with Madtown Media, who is working tirelessly behind the scenes, as you all can see, to make sure that all of these pieces move very smoothly, as well as turning point for today's voting. Well, we are not only broadcasting here on Zoom, but we're also broadcasting live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. To all the delegates, thank you for being very patient, especially this morning, as we have been adapting to this pandemic. While we have done several virtual assemblies due to our new normal, this year we have added even more tools to create an efficient process. You heard from Turning Point regarding your voting application. This will help us to easily identify delegates and quickly count responses without the need to tally the votes. Moreover, we created a new salmon slip that allowed for us to get a better sense of how you're feeling about the resolutions through Qualtrics. Additionally, for the first time ever, you can now easily search our new YLD Resolution database for resolutions for almost the last decade. Next, I am looking forward to highlighting the great work that our membership is doing and for you to hear about resolutions regarding timely issues for young lawyers. When I ran for YLD clerk 2 years ago, one of my priorities was actually ensuring that the Assembly continue to adapt to constantly changing technology and also that we focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. I hope that you will see throughout today's program that we have tried to ensure that those goals are so. Well, happy Black History Month. Now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Our 2022 virtual mid-year assembly has now come to order. The Assembly of Young Lawyers Division for the 2022 mid-year meeting of the ABA is now in session. For the first time, we will have an acknowledgement of stolen land in the interest of our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. We will also do an enslaved labor acknowledgement. Given that we are learning about this practice, here is Professor Elizabeth Middleton with the Department of Native American Studies at UC Davis to discuss these next two agenda items.
Hello. My name is Beth Rose Manning, and I'm a professor in the Department of Native American Studies at University of California, Davis. I am so impressed by the American Bar Association's development of a land acknowledgement and an acknowledgement of enslaved labor. These acknowledgements are essential as they recognize a history that we collectively as Americans share. Our nation is founded upon the theft of indigenous land and the theft and exploitation of African American labor. It is only through acknowledgement that we can begin to build the relationships for a better future that does not take exploitation for granted and does not perpetuate systems of colonialism, racism, and erasure. Our offices, our universities, our homes sit within indigenous homelands. Too often, those homelands as indigenous places go unacknowledged. And that means that the indigenous peoples who are still here are often not recognized, not included, not supported in their work to maintain relationship to responsibility to care for their homelands. Also, I think it's imperative that we recognize that the theft of land and the theft of labor created systems that we either benefit from or still feel the burdens of a legacy of not being able to pass down the fruits of labor. Could be financial, for example, as well as homelands and knowledge for caring for them. These acknowledgements are a first step in really honoring the struggles of those who have come before us, and beginning to think deeply about where we in our different practices as educators, as attorneys, as American citizens, community members, where we fit within that history of exploitation. And how our work can contribute to liberation, to justice, to recognition and moving towards some form of reconciliation, moving towards finding ways to address the extension of the harms of the past that still exist present with the lack of acknowledgement of indigenous lands and of stolen African American labor. So these acknowledgements are the beginning of a conversation, the first step to building relationships across within and between communities and working together to create a future that really upholds ideals of fairness and equality. Again, I commend the American Bar Association for developing these historic acknowledgements of stolen land and stolen labor. And I hope this is part of a larger movement, not only to acknowledge these histories, but to think very clearly about the ways in which we either continue to benefit and or suffer from them, and how we address the impacts of those histories in our current work, society, families and communities. Thank you for the opportunity to comment and thank you to the Bar Association for leading the way in developing these important acknowledgements of stolen land and stolen labor. I look forward to next steps to thinking beyond these acknowledgements to what we do to address these ongoing impacts today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Middleton, for that explanation. And now, for the first time, we will have NANABA Delegate Heather Torres to lead us in a stolen land acknowledgement.
Hello all. My name is Heather Torres. I'm a citizen of San Alfonso Pueblo and a descendant of the Navajo Nation and Mexican peoples. I'm the current secretary of the National Native American Bar Association, or NANABA, and serve as a NANABA delegate to this assembly. I am filming from the homelands of the Yahavian clan of the Serrano people in Southern California. I thank the YLD Council and all those responsible for establishing this practice for the YLD Assembly and inviting me to give today's land acknowledgement. The Young Lawyers Division of the American Bar Association, ABA, acknowledges that Seattle, Washington, where this year's ABA Midyear and this assembly would have been held if we were able to be in person, is located on the traditional and ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish peoples, who have served as stewards of the area for generations. We also humbly acknowledge the diverse and vibrant Native communities who call Seattle home today. We are grateful for their past and continued stewardship of the land. We celebrate the resilient strength, and enduring presence of indigenous people demonstrated around the world. And as members of the ABA, we remain committed to supporting indigenous members of our community and to advancing a long ABA tradition of honoring tribal sovereignty and tribal rights through ABA policy. I will close by urging each of you to think about where you are, to learn about the indigenous communities that care for the spaces you occupy, and to reflect on how you can be a better guest on native lands. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. We really appreciate you leading our first stolen land acknowledgement for the YLD Assembly. While an acknowledgement is not enough to demonstrate our need to educate and act regarding the impacts of our actions on Indigenous and Native American communities, I hope that each of us reflects on how we can act moving forward. Now we will have an acknowledgement of the labor of enslaved individuals by YLD scholar and delegate Charlotte Stanberry of Washington, D.C.
We acknowledge the legacy of slavery in our region and the enslaved African people whose labor was exploited for generations to help establish the economy of our region and the United States. Specifically, the production and harvest of surplus crops and land cultivation. An estimated 10 million enslaved Africans were brought to the Americas beginning in the 1500s until 1867. Countless millions of black people suffered in bondage in the United States until ratification of the 13th Amendment in 1865 abolished slavery and indentured servitude. The end of slavery was followed by a series of discriminatory and repressive laws that created a racial caste system that legitimized anti-black racism. The gruesome legacy of slavery and the racist laws and practices that continue to be passed and implemented impact American culture and institutions at every level. The labor of enslaved individuals built many of the civic and federal institutions with which we all interact and benefit from daily. The economics of the transatlantic slave trade and the exportation of cotton allowed the United States to position itself as a leader in global trade for centuries. We acknowledge the harm that colonialism and white supremacy have brought to these lands. By recognizing the land that was first taken from Americans and the forced labor that was provided by enslaved Africans and black people. ABA YLD Assembly is acknowledging that we understand that the foundation of our country, these United States of America, and the roots that it created in order to grow and thrive are based in colonialism, racism, and indignity. It is only by recognition and understanding these errors that were made during our nation's origins that we can hope to correct our path. The ABA YLD Assembly honors the enslaved people's contributions that lead us to be able to have this meeting.
Thank you so much. During Black History Month, I appreciate that not only are we able to acknowledge the labor of Black people in building this country, but later we will hear about projects that move us forward. And now we will have a special presentation and welcome by our ABA President, Reginald Turner.
Thank you, members of the YLD Assembly for this opportunity to speak with you. As young lawyer members, you are a vital part of the American Bar Association. We value your involvement. We especially appreciate outstanding leadership, YLD Chair Choi Portis, and your colleagues, Shada Lee, Jamie Davis, who serve with me on the ABA Board of Governors. Indeed, all of you play an important part in the activities of the American Bar Association. We could not be the robust, diverse, relevant membership organization we are without all of you. With your involvement, the times we face calling us to renew our commitment, the internal aims of professional calling, our work together throughout the ABA ensures lawyers deliver justice for our clients and uphold the rule of law every single day in communities throughout America. With initiatives like ABA Practice Forward, we're continuing to learn how to serve lawyers and give them the opportunity to thrive as times and generations change. Our leadership on lawyer wellness especially gratifying and continues critical as we look out for our colleagues and ensure we are doing right by our clients, public we serve. The ABA is a leading voice ensuring independent judiciary and has the highest professional qualifications. We promote public education about the rule of law through continuing initiatives like Law Day and new projects like our social media campaign about the rule of law and the judiciary and constitutional system. Please like and share these messages so we can present a unified message of the importance of the rule of law in our society. The ABA is the leading advocate for legal aid funding in the United States, and we facilitate pro bono national level. We now face an extraordinary need across the country for pro bono on multiple fronts, including evictions, refugee assistance, and disaster relief. Indeed, efforts of the YLD and affiliates on disaster relief are essential to carrying out our mission of advancing access to justice for all. With the considerable and varying legal needs vulnerable people are facing, the ABA's Pro Bono Now initiative reminds lawyers time to volunteer is now. Our website at probononow.org shows lawyers how to join pro bono projects including disaster legal services, free legal answers, Afghan Haitian refugee assistance, and death penalty representation. In addition to civil legal aid, criminal justice reform is a continuing priority for the ABA, especially rectifies racism and other roots of structural injustice. And we are unwavering champions, advancement of women in our profession, people of color, and others from marginalized groups. I am proud of YLD's leadership on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Indeed, the ABA's goal to enhance diversity and eliminate bias is a central focus throughout the association. Our members are energized, and we will never let up on our efforts. I've yet to mention an issue that's a significant concern to many of our members, and that is student debt relief. Thank you for your efforts and input on this front. In September, we supplemented our additional ABA Day Congressional Lobbying event by organizing Student Debt Week of Action, where ABA members urged school debt relief for emerging practicing lawyers. I and other leaders of professional organizations acted by the student debt crisis met virtually with House Majority Whip James Clyburn to discuss debt relief. And the ABA's focus on debt relief continues. None of the ABA's leadership is possible without the lifeblood of association membership. Wherever I speak, I urge that each one reach one. Let's all make a habit reaching out, mentoring colleagues, demonstrating ABA makes better lawyers and fulfilled citizens who make a difference. Please take a moment. Think about one colleague or law student whom you can reach out to and talk about the value you get from belonging to the ABA and the Young Lawyers Division. We even offer tools to do so on our website at ambar.org/ambassador. That's ambar.org/ambassador. Thank you all for everything you do to support the legal profession and the ABA. As your president, I pledge that I will do everything I can to support your work and ensure that the ABA fulfills public trust and service to the law and lawyers everywhere. My very best to you for a successful and rewarding mid-year meeting and continued outstanding service throughout your careers.
Thank you so much. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the virtual nature of this assembly, many of the traditions that we are accustomed to for assembly simply aren't feasible. At this time, due to the fact that the following items are not possible, the speaker will now entertain a motion to adopt the assembly standing rules with the exception of Rule 1.3b, which directs the speaker to reopen certification of the delegates, and Rule 5.5 regarding removing resolutions from the consent calendar. For the purposes of this meeting, our secretary, Tamara Nash, will be seconding motions in the chat.
Speaker, I move to adopt the Assembly standing rules with the exception of Rule 1.3D, which directs the Speaker to reopen certification of delegates, and Rule 5.5 regarding removing resolutions from the consent calendar.
Thank you, Delegate Michael Asari. It has been moved and properly seconded. This motion takes a 2/3 vote to pass. Please listen carefully to the instructions as they will be different due to the virtual nature of our voting to ensure that all votes are counted timely. All of those in favor of the changes due to the virtual nature, please vote aye or yes in your voting app. Those opposed, no. And there's also a button for abstentions. Please cast your votes now. All right, please give us a moment to tally the votes. All right, well, we have 120 yeses, 2 abstain, and 122 voted. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. Now, I would like to introduce you to my fellow division officers present today. You've already gotten a chance to meet me, but I'm sure you're excited to know who I'm working alongside regularly within the YLD Assembly. We have Assembly Clerk Shasta Inman from Albuquerque, New Mexico, Brandon Lee Wolf, who is our treasurer from Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, our secretary, who I've mentioned already, Tamara Nash in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, our chair-elect, Joe Bond from Silver Spring, Maryland, and our chair, Troy Portis from Detroit, Michigan. Additionally, the parliamentarian that I have appointed for this meeting of the Assembly is Council Delegate Daryl Wilson from Springdale, Arkansas. Delegate Wilson is available to accept and respond to parliamentary inquiries throughout the Assembly meeting through the Q&A function. The Assembly assistant I have appointed for this meeting is Council Delegate Eli Contreras from Hollister, California. Our Turning Point software will automatically tally the votes as you have seen for this meeting. And with those introductory remarks, let's move on. We have a full and very exciting agenda. The first order of business, the speaker recognizes YLD Clerk Shasta Inman for our credentials report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Credentials Board has certified 187 delegates for Midyear Assembly. A quorum for this meeting will be present with 94 certified delegates. A quorum is present at this time. The list of certified delegates is in my custody as clerk and is available for electronic inspection by any delegate during the assembly. The separate Zoom meeting room link for that electronic viewing will be put in the chat. Congratulations to national affiliate NANABA and state affiliates Iowa, New Mexico, and North Carolina for completely filling their delegations. Thank you, Madam Speaker. This concludes my credentials report.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. As its presiding officer, I will now explain what the Assembly is and what is its mission. So, there are two policymaking bodies that concern the members of this division. The first is this Assembly, which you're in right now. The YLD Assembly is the principal policymaking body of the division. For any external policy position to take effect beyond this division, it must also be passed by the ABA House of Delegates, which is often referred to as the HOD. Each resolution you will consider today falls into one of two categories. First, there are young lawyer resolutions. These resolutions are numbered as YL resolutions, like, for example, 22-5YL. There are the resolutions that have been offered. Those are the resolutions that have been authored by Young Lawyers Division delegates or members of the Young Lawyers Division. And they will be considered only by this Assembly at this mid-year meeting. Those that are adopted by this Assembly become the policy of this division. There are also House of Delegates or HOD resolutions. The House will meet on Monday of this mid-year meeting. The majority of the HOD resolutions have been authored by members of other sections, divisions, or forums within the ABA. So just like other sections, divisions, and forums take resolutions to the HOD, so does our division. The YLD currently has one resolution that will be brought to the HOD on Monday, HOD Resolution 501, which allows for breastfeeding accommodations at the bar. It was approved last year at an assembly similar to this. The YLD Assembly follows the rules contained within the current edition of the Robert's Rules of Order, subject to such standing or special rules that the Assembly also adopts. The Assembly standing rules are posted on the YLD website's Assembly page. If you wish to make a motion, please use the Q&A function and we will line you up in our virtual queue so that you can be recognized. There were several emails and requests that if delegates wanted to be recognized, that they needed to use a salmon slip. I cannot guarantee that if a delegate uses the Q&A function, they will 100% be recognized if they did not submit that salmon slip. If you submitted the salmon slip and your resolution is up next, please be prepared and ready to speak. When recognized, please state your full name, your state, your delegate status, because this is how you are authorized to serve as a delegate and for your motion. I will not recognize any motion unless it is a motion that is in order when another has the floor, such as a point of order or a parliamentary inquiry. Again, you also have the Q&A function as well. A call for the question also, in other words, calls to end debate and proceed to a vote. That is not in order from your seat. If you wish to call for the question, please submit that request in the Q&A function and wait to be recognized. When entertaining resolutions, debate will alternate between proponents and opponents. If you wish to be recognized as a speaker, please use the raise your hand function and wait to be recognized. Once you have been recognized, please unmute your computer and wait for your webcam to broadcast. Please do not forget again to introduce yourself and also to state if you are a pro speaker or a con speaker on the resolution. Please speak clearly. If you wish to offer an amendment, please submit the amendment in writing through the Q&A function to the parliamentarian, Daryl, as well as the Assembly Assistant, Eli, and wait to be recognized using the same format as just discussed. The delegate moving the resolution has 6 minutes and may reserve some time for rebuttal if they so choose. The delegate opposing a resolution also has 6 minutes, but they do not have the opportunity to reserve time for rebuttal. Those providing council reports on resolutions will have 4 minutes, and all other speakers will have 2 minutes. All attendees will be able to see the speaker's designated speaking time displayed on their screen. Today's agenda was distributed to the Assembly delegates electronically prior to this meeting and is currently available for review on the YLD website. The next item of business is the consent calendar. A summary of the resolutions are listed on the screen and are also on the agenda. The full text of these resolutions is posted on the ABA YLD website and was in the packet sent electronically to each delegate. Any delegate had the ability to object to the placement of any of these resolutions on the consent calendar by the stated deadline. That deadline to object to the placement of the resolutions has now passed, and all the resolutions on the consent calendar shall stand as approved. We will now hear some exciting updates regarding the Legal Opportunity Scholarship Fund. This is the ABA scholarship program that was created to diversify the pipeline of the legal profession by providing 3 years of financial support to law students of color. Started almost 20 years ago, the scholarship program has assisted over 400 students. At these times, the Legal Opportunity Scholarship Fund gives all ABA members an opportunity to show tangibly their support for diversity and inclusion in the profession and to set up law student graduates like those in the upcoming videos for success. Listen as they share what receiving the scholarship meant for them.
If you could tell us a little bit about yourself, where you went to college, just a little bit about yourself, that'd be helpful for the committee.
With respect to my personal statement, it was really about my experience of being pretty much trafficked since I was a child by my father. We were going to visit his family in Jordan, but he ended up taking our passports and disappearing, therefore forcing me as a child and my mother to work for his family. So that was really my first experience with the legal system and attorney to really save your life. And I want to be that for people who felt the same way I did when I felt voiceless.
Your story is very powerful, and so we wanted to congratulate you on being one of the recipients for the scholarship.
Thank you so much. You have no idea how much it means to me. Literally, currently, my family and I live below the poverty line. So for you to be able to alleviate my financial burdens for a law school, this means a lot to me. I greatly appreciate it.
I lost my son in 2011, and I survived breast cancer in 2010, which both of those events really shifted and changed my life. I no longer wanted to just survive. I wanted to really live and thrive, and revisit my dream of becoming an attorney.
You actually are one of our recipients.
God, it feels so good to me. I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. Please, no, I don't want to tear up, but I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been a hard year. It's been a really hard year. I just really appreciate that.
All right. The next item of business is debate on YLD Resolution 22-3YL. This resolution encourages diversifying hiring committees and urges all law firms to consider diversifying their hiring committees to include members from diverse classes related to race, gender, national origin, disability, age, sexual orientation, and gender. For the purpose of moving Resolution 22-3YL, the speaker recognizes Council Delegate Warren Barnes, ABA YLD Affiliates Director from Columbia, South Carolina.
Madam Speaker, I rise to withdraw the current resolution and introduce amended Resolution 22-3YL. This amendment would simply add religion as a recognized protected class.
Thank you, Council Delegate. And so you are moving amended YLD Resolution 22-3YL, correct?
Yes, at this time, I move Resolution 22-3YL.
As amended?
Thank you. I am reserving 1 minute for rebuttal. Under Resolution 22-3YL, the division urges all law firms to consider diversifying their hiring committees to include members from diverse classes related to race, gender, national origin, disability, age, religion, sexual orientation, and gender identity expression to participate in the recruiting, hiring, and retaining other lawyers from diverse backgrounds. The American Bar Association has a long history of advocating for the rights of those discriminated against based on being a member of a protected class. The ABA has been a leader in advancing diversity in the profession and encouraging law firms to ensure the hiring and retention of diverse attorneys in the profession. There have been several studies performed surrounding diversifying the profession. First, the 2021 MCCA Law Firm Diversity Survey shows the percentage change in law firm demographics from 2018 to 2020. When looking solely at the percentage based on all attorneys, this data shows some improvement in recent years. However, when the data is broken down, it is evident that there is still need for significant improvement. Caucasian attorneys are still the leading racial ethnic group, accounting for nearly 80% of all attorneys at the surveyed firm. Underrepresented racial ethnic groups make up about 20.2%. Women make up only 38.3%. LGBTQ plus attorneys represent 3.9%, and individuals with disabilities represent 1% of the profession. The second is the Mansfield Rule certification. Over the last several years, many of the country's leading law firms have committed to diversity through pursuing certification under the Mansfield Rule. The rule in its original form required that women and attorneys of color make up at least 30% of the candidate pool for participating firms' leadership and governance roles, equity partner promotions, and lateral positions. Lastly, on August 8, 2016, the American Bar Association House of Delegates passed Resolution 113, which urged all providers of legal services, including corporations and law firms, to expand and create opportunities at all levels of responsibility for diverse attorneys. The resolution called for a two-pronged approach, urging 1, law firms to focus on their diversity and inclusion practices in a meaningful way, and 2, clients to use their purchasing power to increase economic opportunities for diverse attorneys. As a result, the DI 360 committee developed the Model Diversity Survey to enable clients to measure the effectiveness of diversity and inclusion in the legal teams that they engage and allow clients to uniformly gather diversity data from law firms. Using the ABA Model Diversity Survey as the primary tool to implement Resolution 113, the goal was to provide a uniform way for law firms to report diversity data in an efficient manner. Further, a 2015 Washington Post article cited the American legal profession as the least diverse among professions. Law firms struggle with diversity at every level of a career: hiring, promotion, and retention. While some firms are making headway with hiring more diverse attorneys, promotion and retention of diverse talent remain elusive. If law firms continue to do what they are doing, the world will not change. The number of diverse firm attorneys will remain minuscule. We know this because very little has changed over the past decade. Law firms will also not change if they simply redouble efforts to make objective decisions. The purpose of this resolution is to put the American Bar Association on record as recognizing a true need to encourage legal organizations to diversify their hiring committees to ensure the hiring, advancement, and retention of diverse attorneys. It calls on lawyers and legal organizations to take action to not only ensure diversity in the profession, but also to commit to diversifying their hiring committees to advance diversity in the profession. This is not only for law firms, but for all legal organizations. Before we can truly say that the profession is diverse, we must take steps to ensure the doorkeepers of the profession take a closer look at increasing efforts to eliminate biases and eradicate barriers that hinder diverse attorneys from entering the profession. For these reasons, I ask that you vote in favor of Resolution 22-3YL and urge law firms to diversify their hiring committees to increase diversity in the profession. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do not currently have a principal opponent speaker to speak on this resolution. The first delegate or any person with speaking privileges to be recognized by the speaker as an opponent speaker will be able to speak for up to 6 minutes. Does any delegate wish to speak in opposition of this resolution? As a reminder, please use the raise your hand function and notify our parliamentarian and assembly assistant if that is the case. I'm not being signaled that there is. For the purpose of this debate, the speaker now recognizes Council Delegate Brandon Wolf, ABA YLD Treasurer from Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, to speak in favor of this resolution. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Brandon Lee Wolf, and I serve as the treasurer of the YLD. I rise in support of this resolution. I thought this resolution was so important that I offered a friendly amendment to include the word religion as one of the diverse class of members to be included on hiring committees. I believe it is vitally important that hiring committees, which play a role in recruiting, hiring, and retaining diverse lawyers, to be diversified. I am proud to work at a law firm that achieved Mansfield 4.0 certification and is committed to enhancing the representation of historically underrepresented lawyers in law firm leadership. As this resolution points out, diversity needs to be improved at all levels of a firm, not just at the associate level, and law firms should consider diversifying their hiring committees. I also believe the report to this resolution highlights great recommendations that should be followed at law firms, such as having resumes being reviewed twice and providing interviewers with a checklist of objective criteria to remove subjective biases. I want to commend Delegate Barnes and the Diversity and Inclusion team for submitting this resolution, and I encourage all delegates to support the amended resolution 22-3YL. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Council Delegate Wolf. Give us 1 second as I do see a raised hand. And I want to make sure that I know what the raised hand is for before moving to my next question. In addition to raising your hand, please put in the Q&A whether or not you would like to speak in support or in opposition of a resolution in order for us to move efficiently through today's program. I no longer see a raised hand. So for the purposes of the debate, do we have an opponent speaker? Seeing no further debate, the speaker recognizes Delegate Barnes for a 1-minute rebuttal unless she chooses to waive.
Madam Speaker, I choose to waive rebuttal.
Okay. Delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now the question is on the adoption of amended Resolution 22-3YL. This motion takes a simple majority. All right. Please listen carefully to the instructions as they will be different due to the virtual nature of our voting to ensure the resolutions are counted timely. All those in favor of the motion to adopt the amended resolution 22-3YL, please vote aye or yes by using the voting function. All those opposed, vote nay or no using the voting function. And those who abstain, please also do so in the app. Please cast your votes now. Okay, voting is over. Please give us a second to tally the votes. I want to make sure that our instructions are clear. As I stated earlier, if you are interested in offering an amendment to a debate, to a resolution, we offered the salmon slips in order for you to do that. But if you want to offer an additional amendment, then you need to, in addition to raising your hand, you need to give the amendment language to our parliamentarian and our assembly assistant. Can do that in the Q&A function if you would like to offer an amendment. You also should note whether or not it's a friendly amendment or any other type of amendment in enough time for us to resolve that prior to us actually having a vote that is on the table. Once the vote is on the table, we cannot accept any additional amendments. And with that, we have our votes. 114 yeses, 1 no, and 5 abstentions. So the ayes have it, and the resolution as amended is adopted. We will now hear from ABA YLD Chair-elect Deborah Enix Ross.
Along with President Turner, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the ABA Midyear meeting, albeit virtually, and to thank you for your involvement and leadership in the Young Lawyers Division. As a young lawyer leader, you should know that one of my primary duties as President-elect is to appoint ABA members to the association, standing committees, commissions, and other groups that contribute to the ABA's operations and work to achieve justice for all. You should also know that your chair-elect, Josephine Bond, serves on my appointments committee, and she will help us identify outstanding young lawyers, all while she's making her own appointments to YLD committees. You should also know that among the priorities for the coming year are cornerstones for democracy, civics, civility, and collaboration. And I certainly look forward to the involvement of many of our young lawyers in that effort. I welcome your participation, and I hope to collaborate with you all and see you very soon in person. Again, thank you for all that you do for the ABA and for your communities. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. The next item of business is debate on YLD Resolution 22-4YL. As a reminder, if there are any changes, amendments, please make sure to use the Q&A function, raise your hand, and ensure that our parliamentarian and our assembly assistant are able to assist you. This resolution urges for members of the judiciary to implement policies supporting the participation of junior lawyers in courtroom proceedings, including junior lawyers that contributed to drafting, by allowing multiple attorneys to argue for a party. Please make sure that if you are a speaker on a particular resolution, that your name is renamed to the name that was given to us to speak on behalf of a resolution. If you are a speaker on this resolution and you have not been promoted at this time, please raise your hand so that we can promote you. For the purposes of moving YLD Resolution 22-4YL, the speaker recognizes Council Delegate Danny Burrell, YLD Director of Membership from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move 22-4YL for consideration. I reserve 1 minute of my time for rebuttal. Distinguished delegates, I rise today in support of 22-4YL because it advocates for a change that would positively impact our members, new and young lawyers, and gives concrete ideas for implementation. As detailed in the report, the YLD Assembly and ABA House of Delegates have recognized the value in and urged the creation of meaningful courtroom experiences for new and young lawyers on multiple occasions. 22-4YL urges members of the judiciary to create policies that make space for junior attorneys to participate in oral argument in a way that does not diminish the senior attorney's ability to control the argument or create risk for the client. I could talk for hours on why these policies are important. I've summarized a lot of that in the supporting data in the report. However, if there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that young lawyers would much rather hear from a judge. And with that, Madam Speaker, I yield the remainder of my time to Federal Magistrate Judge Janice Van Murville of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Louisiana.
Thank you, Delegate Burrell. The speaker now recognizes Judge Janice Van Murville because Delegate Burrell has yielded the remainder of her time, except for the 1 minute that has been reserved for rebuttal.
Thank you very much. And I apologize to everyone. I share the tech problems from earlier, and all of a sudden my camera will not come on. But let me go ahead and speak to this issue. That's the important part, not seeing me. I want to thank Danny for inviting me to speak to this esteemed organization about this really important resolution. And I want to thank Danny for proposing this very practical, easily implemented, and highly impactful means of promoting oral argument for new and young lawyers. I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you why, after becoming a federal magistrate judge, I promptly implemented what I call my 7-year rule, which Danny included in her report. I want to tell you how it has been received in my community and why this proposal is so important. Despite being roughly 50% of law school graduating classes for several decades now, in the past decade, the average of women arguing before the United States Supreme Court is well under 20%. For people of color, the numbers are lower. For Black women, the appearances can be years apart. Reaching the stage in your career as a litigator or appellate lawyer where you're qualified to speak in those courts or their state court equivalents is a process that has to start somewhere. But if you're never given a chance to start, how do you get the experience necessary to be a viable choice at that level? These are not only experiences that lead to skills that enable you to attract clients and instill their confidence, get good work, and deliver a full range of services. If you're a litigator, these are the skills the partnership will be analyzing when you're up for partner. Noticing as soon as I took the bench that there were very few women and people of color coming to court, I started doing some research, and I found that other judges had made the same observation, and I adopted what I call my 7-year rule, which is in Danny's materials. I want to tell you why it is such a win-win-win proposition. Because by allowing more than one lawyer to present an argument, if one of them is a junior attorney, the junior attorneys get a chance to speak. That's win number one. Because the pool of attorneys in their first decade of practice is so much more diverse than the older partnership echelons, the attorneys appearing now are bound to be more diverse. That's win number two. But this is a win for me too. The younger lawyer often has the better information, right? So instead of waiting for one of you to whisper the correct answer to my question in your senior partner's ear, you can just engage in a discussion because you have the answers. That is definitely win number three. My rule costs me nothing. It benefits the legal community and it benefits me as well. This rule has gone over very well since I adopted it. The senior lawyers can read the tea leaves. They know this is important to me. So they proudly invoke it and then allow the junior lawyer to step up to the microphone, secure in the knowledge that they can step in if necessary to correct or supplement or even take over, which never happens because you know your stuff. I want to make one last note on why it would be so helpful for the ABA to adopt this resolution. Judges are fiercely independent. We operate in silos. We don't tell each other what to do. Even really good ideas, good practices are rarely shared. The adoption of this resolution would go a long way to giving judges organizations like the Federal Magistrate Judge Association a document to use with the imprimatur of the ABA to suggest this as a best practice. It could be used at judge school for federal magistrate judges and district judges. I strongly urge the ABA to adopt this, and I thank you for inviting me to speak on behalf of this important issue, and congratulations to Ms. Barnes too for the resolution that preceded this one. And again, I'm sorry about my camera.
Thank you so much, Judge. For the purposes of opposing YLD Resolution 22-4YL, the speaker recognizes Council Delegate Ashley Weathers, ABA YLD Scholar from North Carolina. Council Delegate Weathers, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I speak out in opposition of 22-4YL on the grounds that what the judge and everyone has pointed out is that it's only under the judiciary. It's not going to be placed in a position that law firms. You're still leaving the decision up to law firms to be compelled to choose new attorneys or younger attorneys. And with past histories and what we've heard as far as the diversity amongst law firms needing to increase over the years, it is leaving partners or lead counsel choices to pick younger attorneys when there's always history of counsel or partners only selecting who they're homogeneous with. And if we know that 60% or majority of law firms are older, male, and white, they tend to choose lower counsels that are younger, male, and white. So I speak out in opposition on the grounds that more or less this is not going to compel what we believe it should, and that more younger attorneys will have the opportunity to speak, as well as what was noted in the papers was that most attorneys, younger and people of color, are leaving law firms at a higher rate because of certain issues. So if now you're going to create more tension by saying that they have the opportunity to select attorneys, and these attorneys will more than likely not be selected because of possible partners not choosing them. I yield with the rest of my time, but these are my points to speak out in opposition of.
Thank you so much, Council Delegate Weathers. For the purposes of debate, the speaker now recognizes the next proponent speaker, Council Delegate Megan Peterson, HOD representative from New Orleans, Louisiana. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, fellow members of this body. My name is Megan Peterson, and I've had the pleasure of serving in this body for the past several years. And I'm Louisiana's Young Lawyer Delegate in the House of Delegates. I rise to speak in support of this resolution because I think my experience, like those of many of us, whether you've been practicing for a short while or you've been pushing a decade of this, It's likely to be similar, and it's that the opportunity for young lawyers to get courtroom experience is dwindling. I do acknowledge the points that were made by the con speaker. However, this resolution is not intended to force law firms to hire diverse or younger attorneys. Instead, what this is trying to do is provide an outlet for young lawyers to have an access to the courtroom and to provide both the older and more experienced, frankly, attorneys, as well as your clients, a way to understand why this is important and to put the issue at the forefront. I have been lucky throughout my career to have gained such experience in the courtroom through partners and clients who have supported my goals along the way. I am a very strong proponent that the best way to learn something is through doing it. Certainly, observing oral argument is a great starting point, but this resolution will put young lawyers at the podium, something that unfortunately is still rare. The process of preparing for oral argument, rising in front of your peers, and perhaps stumbling a little bit along the way is all part of the process of growing and honing these skills. This resolution is intended to pave that pathway so that we can all continue to grow as lawyers and put ourselves in the courtroom and to provide our partners and clients a way to allow that to occur. And so I see my time is almost up. I will urge you to support this resolution. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Council Delegate Peterson. I want to make sure that it's clear, because of the virtual nature of today's meeting, if you have questions about parliamentary procedure, our parliamentarian, Daryl Wilson, is available. Also, those questions typically come from individuals who can actually be delegates, because those are the individuals who would actually have privileges of the floor, unless you have privileges in another way. So please identify who you are to our parliamentarian so that he can best assist in answering questions based on your delegate, based on your authorization to be a delegate here today. And we're also excited for all the individuals who are not delegates who are also tuning in. But please make sure you identify who you are and your delegate registration status for our parliamentarian. For the purposes of debate, do we have an opponent speaker? For the purposes of the debate, the speaker now recognizes the next proponent speaker, Council Delegate Matthew Kurbis from Chicago, Illinois. You have 2 minutes, Council Delegate Kurbis.
Hold on, I'm having trouble hearing anyone.
We can hear you.
Okay, can I go ahead and start? I haven't been given a signal yet.
Oh yes, I was saying that you have 2 minutes.
Okay, sure thing. So I absolutely support the spirit of this resolution, and which is one of the reasons why I'm speaking in favor of its adoption. I think it's an important step that needs to be taken to make sure that young lawyers get more experience, which is why I'm so glad to have seen it when I read all the resolutions that were up today. One thing that I think that we need to think about moving forward, after I hope you vote in favor of this resolution and it's adopted, is what to do in those situations where a judge is making this decision and you have attorneys who are billing by the hour who may not have planned to bring a young attorney, but now they're being compelled to. Well, now it's costing their client potentially twice as much money because they're paying for twice the time, an hour perhaps, for each attorney that's being there. So while I think it's really important that we vote in favor of adoption today, we have to think about next steps. And that's, what do we do as a profession and what do we do in this body to get rid of the billable hour as the primary way that attorneys who bill by the hour, that's what they do. And I think there's a lot of other things that we could talk about and think about in other resolutions, but I think this is a great step that if once we take it, we have to think about what's the next step that we take. So I urge you vote yes in favor of adoption and think about what comes next. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For the purposes of the debate, do we have an opponent speaker? Seeing no further debate, the speaker now recognizes Delegate Burrell for a 1-minute rebuttal unless she chooses to waive.
I will be very brief, Madam Speaker. I first want to take a moment to thank Judge Van Meerveld for her appearance today. While you couldn't see it, I know she's very upset. She was prepared to present on camera today, despite the fact that she is in the middle of a service project on a Saturday in New Orleans. Her dedication to this issue is evident, and we appreciate the time that she's provided us today. This is a very important issue for our members. As the ABA YLD, we're constantly striving for ways to improve the profession for new and young lawyers. Finding ways to ask the judiciary to create meaningful courtroom opportunities is just one of those such opportunities. And with that, I respectfully request that you pass 22-4YL and adopt this resolution. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now the question is on the adoption of YLD Resolution 22-4YL. This motion takes a simple majority. Please listen carefully to the instructions, as they will be different due to the virtual nature of our voting to ensure that our resolution votes are counted timely. All those in favor of the motion to adopt YLD resolution, and also can we, for tech, can we get 22-4YL on the screen, please? Thank you. All those in favor of adopting YLD resolution 22-4YL, please vote by saying aye or yes in the voting function. All those opposed, vote nay or no in the voting function, and those abstain, please do so in the app. Please cast your vote now. All right, while we are waiting for our votes to be tallied, as a reminder, we have the practice board survey as well. And we actually need people, we're actually gonna give people another 20 seconds to vote again for 22-4YL to make sure there weren't any technical difficulties. So we're gonna give people another 20 seconds to please cast their vote for 22-4YL. Okay, we are now officially closing the votes, so please make sure that you had an opportunity to vote for 22-4YL. Please give us one moment while we tally the votes. Okay, we now have our votes for 22-4YL. We have 106 yes, which is 88% of the votes, 14 no, 12% of the votes, and 1 individual who abstained. The ayes have it, and 22-4YL passes and is adopted. We will now hear from our YLD chair, Choi Portis.
Hello, everyone. I'm Choi Portis, your 2021-2022 chair for the Young Lawyers Division of the American Bar Association, here to deliver the state of the division report. First, welcome to the Midyear Assembly. I hope that all of you are well, all of your families are well, and that everyone is staying safe. Wow, it's hard to believe that we are halfway through this bar year. And as a result, I wanted to deliver some pretty pertinent statistics for you. I know that it's been pretty disheartening. We have been unable to meet in person, but we've still been doing the work of the division. Specifically, as of December 2021, we have 31,369 lawyers who are identified as young or new lawyers. As it pertains to our spring conference, we launched our registration early, and we have about 10 registrants so far. That's great. Considering how early in the bar year and how early we released our registration. So please register for the spring conference. We are constantly monitoring updates to make sure that it's going to be safe for us to meet in person in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia in May. As for this particular conference, we have a total of 243 registrants for this mid-year meeting. And just to kind of backtrack, we did something a little bit different for our fall conference. And for that fall conference, we had a series of programming over the course of the month of October. And we had 348 participants that participated in each of those programs. So as you can see, even in a virtual environment, we are still providing service to our membership, and we are still doing the work of the division. Again, it is my hope that you and your families are well and safe, and I hope to see you all in a few short months in Atlanta, Georgia for our spring conference.
Thank you so much. So we are now to our next item of business. Our next item of business is debate on YLD Resolution 22-5YL. This resolution urges federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial governments to recognize structural racism as a public health crisis and to enact policy to remedy its longstanding effects. This proposal further urges the government entities to enact an Anti-Racism in Public Health Act of 2020 or similar legislation creating a National Center for Anti-Racism and Law Enforcement Violence Prevention Program at the CDC. For purposes of moving YLD Resolution 22-5YL, the speaker recognizes Council Delegate Robert Baldwin III, WBA, YLD President from Washington, D.C.
Hello? Can you see me?
Yes, you are here.
Okay, there we go. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, Chair Portis.
I'm sorry, Council Delegate Baldwin, do you move YLD Resolution 22-5YL?
Yes, apologies, Madam Speaker. I do move Resolution 22-5YL Yes, I would need a second, please.
Okay, thank you. Our secretary has seconded it. Delegate Baldwin, you have 6 minutes. Would you like to reserve any time for rebuttal?
I will reserve 1 minute for rebuttal, please.
Delegate Baldwin, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, Chair Portis, YLD officers, YLD Council, and the entire YLD Assembly. I respectfully come before you today to ask for your support of Resolution 22-5YL. With your support, this resolution will both acknowledge the deleterious public health effects birthed by racism and urge local, state, tribal, and federal governments to enact policies seeking to remedy these harmful effects, specifically the Anti-Racism in Public Health Act. 2 weeks from today will be February 26, 2022. That is the 10-year anniversary recognizing the killing of Trayvon Martin. Not only did this event thrust the issue of racism back to the forefront of America's mind, but it also ignited in earnest what will become an international movement against racism and the effects of racism, structural and otherwise. To that end, several mainstream organizations and government bodies have recognized racism as a public health crisis. Organizations like the American Medical Association have declared that, quote, although the primary drivers of racial health inequity are systematic and structural racism, racism and unconscious bias within medical research and healthcare delivery have caused and continue to cause harm to marginalized communities and society as a whole, end quote. City governments across the country have also declared racism as a threat to public health, including one of the nation's largest cities, Los Angeles, California, who did so in 2020. Even at the federal level, the director for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention acknowledged last year acknowledged that racism's structural barriers in different aspects of life, and that, quote, these social determinants of health have lifelong negative effects on the mental and physical health of individuals in communities of color. We are asking this organization to follow suit. As advocates, our duty of zealous representation must not stop in the courtroom, boardroom, or Zoom break room. It must extend beyond the walls of this profession to hold this nation to what it seeks to be, a land of equal access to the right to humanity. That includes acknowledging and redressing structural racism from which it is built and from which it profits. Secondly, members of Congress have twice introduced the Anti-Racism in Public Health Act. Last introduced in February of 2021, the Anti-Racism in Public Health Act will acknowledge racism as a public health crisis on a federal scale. It will also confront racism's public health impacts through 2 bold new programs with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Under this act, the CDC will undertake such activities as conducting research, collecting data, awarding grants, and providing leadership and coordination on the science and the practice of anti-racism and the effectiveness of interventions to address these impacts. It will also create a law enforcement violence prevention program that will take a public health approach to combating police brutality and violence. This program is essential in context for this program is essential in the context of a few figures. Last year alone, police killed 1,134 people. When adjusting for the population, Black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by police than white people, even though they are 1.3 times less likely to be armed. In fact, police kill nearly 1,000 people each year, but since 2005, only 139 officers have been arrested for murder or manslaughter. That is as of the date of the writing of this resolution. This makes the creation of the law enforcement violence prevention program not only important, but a necessary step for Black survival. So I ask you, friends, colleagues, fellow advocates, allies, and potential allies, recognize that racism is a public health crisis and urge governments to pass legislation to address this as a public health matter. Please vote in favor of Resolution 22-5YL. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate Baldwin. We do not currently have a principal opponent to speak on this resolution. The first delegate or other person with speaking privileges to be recognized by the speaker as an opponent may speak for up to 6 minutes. Does any delegate wish to speak in opposition of this resolution? Okay, seeing none, for the purpose of debate, the speaker now recognizes the next proponent speaker, Delegate Chloe Woods, NBA YLD Chair. Delegate Woods, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Greetings, ABA YLD Assembly delegates. My name is Chloe Woods, and I serve as the chair of the National Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. The NBA YLD is home of the young lawyer of color, aged 40 years or younger, or within their first 10 years of practice, whichever is more inclusive. The National Bar Association was founded in 1925 when African-American attorneys and judges were not allowed to join the American Bar Association on the basis of their race. As much as we would like to believe this type of blatant discrimination is a thing of the past, inequity persists today and shows up in social determinants of health or quality of life factors. According to the Center for Health Progress, we can accurately predict a person's health based on factors like their race, income, or zip code. This is unacceptable. It means that people of color, those with less economic opportunity, and those living in communities with fewer resources face increased barriers to good health simply due to their life circumstances. An issue that is especially of interest to me at 36 weeks pregnant is Black maternal mortality. The United States has the highest maternal mortality rate of any high resource country, and it is the only country outside of Afghanistan and Sudan where the rate is rising. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women in America. We must address the conditions that impact women's health, not just when they become pregnant, but from childhood, adolescence, and into adulthood through changing some of the barriers and structural racism as Chair Baldwin spoke about before. The National Academy of Medicine released a report documenting that the poverty in which Black people disproportionately live cannot account for the fact that Black people are sicker and have shorter lifespans than their white complements. NAM found that racial and ethnic minorities receive lower quality healthcare than white people, even when insurance status, income, age, and severity of conditions are comparable. By lower quality healthcare, NAM meant the concrete inferior care that physicians give their Black patients. NAM reported that minority persons are less likely than white persons to be given appropriate cardiac care, to receive kidney dialysis or transplants, and to receive the best treatments for stroke, cancer, or AIDS. It concluded by describing an uncomfortable reality. Some people in the United States were more likely to die from cancer, heart disease, and diabetes simply because of their race or ethnicity, not because they lack access to healthcare. Thus, I support Resolution 22-5YL and ask that you do too. Thank you, Assembly delegates.
Thank you so much. For the purposes of debate, do we have an opponent speaker? Seeing no further debate, the speaker now recognizes Delegate Baldwin for a 1-minute rebuttal unless he chooses to waive.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this time, I choose to waive.
Delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Also, make sure that your apps are up and ready for our vote. Now, the question is on the adoption of YLD Resolution 22-5YL. This motion takes a simple majority. Please listen carefully again to the instructions, as they will be different because we are in this virtual nature of voting. All those in favor of the motion to adopt YLD Resolution 22-5YL, please do so by voting aye or yes in the voting app. All those opposed, please vote nay or no using the voting function. And those who abstain, please also do so in the app. Please cast your votes now. All right, voting is now closing. All right, give us 1 minute as we tally the votes. All right, our votes are coming in. We have 103 yes, 6 no, and 14 abstentions. The ayes have it, and 22-5YL is adopted to our policies. We will now hear from Council Delegate Heather Horn and Janae Lamar, our Women of Color Project co-chairs, regarding our Women of Color project.
Greetings, YLD family. My name is Heather Horn, and I'm the co-chair of the Women of Color Task Force. I'm excited to share with you our mission. I will then pass the torch to my co-chair, Janae Lamar, who will share highlights from this barn year's programming. The Women of Color Task Force is an initiative created by current ABA YLD Chair Troy Portis. The task force is comprised of dynamic and diverse women in the legal profession who have a dedicated interest in ensuring that the women of color are seen and heard in the legal field. The purpose of the Women of Color Task Force is to examine the experiences of women of color in the legal profession, identify, effectively address the unique challenges they face, and provide them with tools to build community. We recognize and understand that women of color in the legal profession each have different experiences, and we seek to celebrate those differences while also addressing the challenges that come with them. Our task force intends to do this through our programming centered around our pillars, eliminating barriers to entry of the legal profession, fostering a network of support for young women of color attorneys, identifying and addressing challenges to retention, and promoting wellness and mindfulness. We believe that each of these pillars will resonate deeply with many of the women of color in the division, the association, and legal profession at large.
The Women of Color Initiative includes the leadership of Special Advisor Professor Zachary Steele, Co-Chair Heather Horn, Co-Chair Janae Lamar, Vice Chair Mary Magdalene Anyango, members non-ho Christina Hornsby, Lauren Nelson, and Jessica Perez. Our dynamic team has collaborated to execute successful programming, including our inaugural Blue Jeans Brunch, which focused on realism, resilience, and well-being, and included past ABA President Paulette Brown. We followed our en route to the bench program, which focused on diversity in the judiciary, and included an esteemed panel of lady judges across the United States. Our program, So You Want to Be a Law Professor, was a success and included in-depth discussions surrounding careers in academia. Our fireside chat series kicked off with a conversation with an HBCU law school dean, and the series will continue with more conversations about women of color in the legal profession and their experiences. Our latest programs will be updated on the ABA's website, so stay tuned.
Okay, keep it running.
All right, thank you so much. The next item of business is debate on YLD Resolution 22-6YL. This resolution will enable the ABA to work with members of Congress to ensure protections are in place for young lawyers who are shouldered with student debt. It creates a platform where they will have lower interest rates and eliminate origination fees. Meanwhile, for private loans, this resolution encourages Congress to collaborate with private lenders to ensure there are protections in place for what borrowers are used to with federal student loans. For the purpose of moving YLD Resolution 22-6YL, the speaker recognizes Aaron Sahaski, ABA YLD Student Loan Debt and Financial Wellness Director from Detroit, Michigan.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. At this time, I would like to withdraw the current resolution and introduce amended Resolution 22-6YL based on a friendly amendment to interest capitalization, which was addressed in the body of this resolution, but not incorporated into the recitals. And so therefore, I move YLD Resolution 22-YL as amended.
Okay, yes, 22-6YL as amended. And there is a second by our secretary. Delegate Sahaski, you have 6 minutes. Would you like to reserve any time for rebuttal?
Madam Speaker, I would like to reserve 1 minute for rebuttal.
Okay, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, delegates, guests, and staff. My name is Aaron Sahaski, and I am from Detroit, Michigan, and I have delegate status through my role as the Director of Student Debt and Financial Wellness for the ABA YLD and rise in favor of 22-YL. When ABA membership and marketing surveyed young lawyers and law students alike, time and time again, the #1 issue YLD members raise is the ability to pay off their student loan debt. Between the 2020 and 2021 student debt surveys, the ABA YLD surveyed over 2,000 YLD members to take a comprehensive look at student loan debt, and what we uncovered was striking. More than approximately 90% of respondents access student loans to finance their legal or prior education, amounting to an average of $130,000 in all loans combined at graduation for law students. The impact of student loans is often far greater on lawyers of color. For lawyers of color, this number was greater than $200,000. And this crisis continues long after graduation, as 40% of respondents to the survey saw their debt loads increase since graduation. For most respondents shouldered with stagnant or increasing balances post-graduation, the monthly payment doesn't cover interest due, which in turn turns to capitalization, which causes the balance to increase. While those in income-based repayment programs understand this reality and can see a definite end to their loan debt, for those not participating in such a program, it creates a reality where student loan debt will be tied to them as a financial anchor well into the middle of their career. Now, to pay for the high cost of law schools, law students may borrow from a private lender, take out a government-backed federal loan, or perhaps sometimes a combination of the two. And as many of you know, there are advantages and disadvantages of both, and neither are without faults and opportunities for improvement. This amendment seeks to address some of those disadvantages so that the ABA YLD can continue to advocate on behalf of its members in this #1 issue facing young lawyers. For example, federal origination fees are currently set at 4.228% for PLUS loans. Now, these fees are not usable to law students. However, their interest accrues on that fee from day one. And moreover, with PLUS loans, borrowers must show that they have no adverse credit history. And for some law students, this can be an impediment. And consequently, they are faced with making the decision to take out private loans instead. Now, what can become problematic in this space is that private loan lenders perform a much more substantial credit check. And for those applicants that may have already been denied for federal loans, they will be faced with a much higher interest rate when using private lenders, or they may be even rejected outright. This could result where a potential law student is accepted to an ABA accredited law school, but is unable to attend or continue their enrollment due to being denied federal or private loans to cover the cost of attendance. Now, as mentioned above, the federal loans provide protections that private loans do not have. Now, for instance, take private loans default policy. For federal loans, default begins after 270 days of non-payment. Now, with private loans, this begins default after 30 days. And not even during the COVID-19 pandemic did borrowers see relief on their private student loans. Now, as private student loans to continue, the private loan market accounts for over $130 billion of student loan debt. That's increased over 70% in the past decade. Now, since many young lawyers have both a mix of federal and private student loans, 22-6YL encourages Congress to work together with private lenders to encourage that those lenders create more favorable protections for their borrowers so that the chasm between federal and private student loans narrows. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you so much. We do not have a principal opponent to speak on this resolution. The first delegate or other person with speaking privileges to be recognized by the speaker as an opponent may speak for up to 6 minutes. Does any delegate wish to speak in opposition of the amended resolution? For the purposes of this debate, the speaker now recognizes the next proponent speaker, Delegate Matthew Curbis from Chicago, Illinois. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. So I'm pretty involved with financial wellness as well. Like Aaron, you may recognize my voice from our incredible podcast, primarily hosted by Sonia Russo. But I used to host what was the Financial Wellness Minute, and now we dedicate a full episode every so often to financial wellness. If you haven't listened to the podcast, you should go back and listen to our episode. We had a 2-part episode on financial wellness, and we talk about interest capitalization and how it's something that's often misunderstood by young people going to, well, really people of all ages, but especially the younger ones who are taking out student loans for the first time to seek an education that they otherwise could not afford. I'm the one who proposed the friendly amendment to the resolution that proposes that we eliminate current and future interest capitalization from federal loans and prohibit that from private loans. So I think that this is one of the reasons why even people on income-based repayment, if they all of a sudden don't qualify, now they owe this massive amount of debt. That's because of interest capitalization. And there's simply not enough time in the 2 minutes I'm given to go into what interest capitalization is if you're not really sure what it is, but it's basically why these loans become runaway loans where people pay multiple times the amount that's actually due instead of just the amount they owed plus some interest. It's really, I think, very predatory, which is one of the reasons why when we're considering how to make student loan terms more favorable, getting rid of interest capitalization goes to the top of my list. So I urge adoption of the resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Delegate Curbis. For the purposes of debate, do we have an opponent speaker? Seeing none, the speaker now recognizes the next proponent speaker, Delegate Chris Janice from Silver Spring, Maryland. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Chris Janice, and I'm a delegate by way of the Maryland State Bar Association and by virtue of my past service as Speaker of this Assembly. I also have the pleasure this year of serving as Special Advisor to the Student Debt and Financial Wellness Team for the YLD. To those of you who have had the pleasure of joining the YLD Assembly before, this resolution might, in general terms, sound a bit to you like the movie Groundhog Day, in which the protagonist finds himself reliving the same day over and over again. It's a bit like that for Aaron and I too, and for all of the YLD. We've had previous student debt resolutions on payment forbearance, on debt forgiveness, on favorable consolidation terms, and on public service loan forgiveness. And we are here again to ask this Assembly to say loudly and with one voice that the crisis of student debt must be addressed and must be put at the forefront by this association. You heard Delegate Sohaski detail the types of fixes needed for both federal and private student loans, and this resolution makes meaningful progress towards addressing those issues. A vote nay on resolution 22-6YL is akin to saying that to be a lawyer, you must assume a potentially unwieldy debt load with a maze of potential pitfalls. A vote yay on resolution 22-6YL is a vote for equity, fair borrowing, and a level playing field in the pursuit of a legal education. And with that, I urge your adoption of resolution 22-6YL. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. For the purposes of debate, do we have an opponent speaker? Seeing no further debate, the speaker recognizes Delegate Sohaski for a 1-minute rebuttal unless he chooses to wait.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. However, I yield.
Okay. Delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now, the question is on the adoption of 22-6 YL as amended. You see the amended language also on the screen. This motion takes a simple majority. Please listen carefully to the instructions as they are different due to the virtual nature of voting in a virtual assembly. All those in favor of the motion to adopt the amended 22-6 YL, please vote aye or yes by using the voting function. All those opposed, please vote nay or no by using the voting function. And those who abstain, please also do so in the app. Please cast your votes now. Okay, time has now expired. Please give us a few moments to tally the votes. Okay, our votes are in. We have 112 ayes or yeses, 6 noes, 5 abstentions. The ayes have it, and 22-6 YL as amended is adopted. We will now hear from our ABA HOD chair, Barbara Howard from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Greetings, young lawyers. I am sorry that I am coming to you virtually again instead of being able to be in person. I know that we were all excited about going to Seattle, and unfortunately, the virus had another idea, didn't it? So when we are finally able to get together again, I'm sure it will be one big great celebration. In the meantime, we talk a little bit about the proceedings for the House, which will be this Monday, the 14th. We have a fairly light agenda, although we do have one resolution from the young lawyers. It's resolution 501, and it is dealing with providing reasonable and accessible accommodations for lactating individuals with respect to law firm and other employment settings, law schools, bar associations, and bar exam testing centers. So that will be part of our agenda. One of the things I think might be very interesting for you, and I think the highlight of the meeting, the House meeting on Monday, will be the panel discussion presented by the House Committee on Issues of Concern to the Profession. It will pertain to the issues of redistricting and gerrymandering, which of course is extremely timely. That panel will be moderated by Joanne Epps, who is a former member of the House from the litigation section. She is currently special advisor to the president of Temple University, where she is also served as dean of its law school. The panelists will include Dean Erwin Chemerinsky from the University of California, Berkeley School of Law, along with Kathy Fong, who is the national coordinator for Common Cause with respect to redistricting issues. Also, we have Philip Strock, who is a partner at Nelson Mullins, and he argued the redistricting issue before the North Carolina and Ohio Supreme Court on behalf of the legislatures. And finally, we have Samuel Wong, who is a neuroscientist at Princeton University and is head of their gerrymandering project. So I think you will find this to be very insightful, interesting conversation. There will be time for questions and answers. If you are not a member of the House, you can still attend by going into the Midyear meeting site on the ABA website, and you can actually sign up for just this program. It'll start on Monday the 14th promptly. It's scheduled to last between an hour and an hour and 15 minutes. And I hope that you will take away from this some ideas for you to get involved in your local communities in terms of the issues faced with redistricting and gerrymandering issues that are currently before us. Another idea for you for activity for involvement, while not part of the House Delegates meeting this time, is the Afghan Refugee Project. The ABA is currently organizing efforts to help Afghan refugees as they settle into communities across the country. And because you have such an incredible network in your state and local bar associations, I hope that as we get to the place of needing feet on the ground, so to speak, that you will volunteer time for this just most important aspect of resettlement for people as they learn how to navigate America and American laws. So between the Afghan project and the redistricting issues, I do hope that you will make some time to volunteer for most important causes. I want to thank you for participating in the American Bar Association and Lawyers Division. You are the future of our profession. And thank you for inviting me. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you so much. I also hope that everyone took an opportunity to look at our clerk's message as to whether or not you will be able to be entered into the social media raffle. So please take a moment to review that if you are interested in being entered into the raffle. The next item of business is debate on YLD Resolution 613. This resolution calls for laws establishing a legal presumption that children with dependency child welfare cases are present and actively engaged in their own court proceedings. Child presence provides the court a greater understanding of who the child is as an individual, including an opportunity to learn about the unique racial, ethnic, cultural identity of the child. This resolution provides that children should have the discretion to decide if they do not want to attend in consultation with their attorneys. The resolution also recommends that courts, judges, and attorneys ensure that logistical obstacles such as scheduling conflicts, lack of transportation, perceived trauma, and challenges to accessing technology do not negate the presumption for presence. For the presence of the children in court. Okay, for the purpose of moving YLD Resolution 613, the speaker recognizes Delegate Michael Aseri. ABA 32nd District Representative from Tustin, California.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm as a pro-speaker. I move that the YLD support the Commission on Youth at Risk's Resolution HOD 613 regarding the presumption of youth presence in court.
Thank you. Is there a second? The Secretary has now seconded. Delegate Sari, you have 6 minutes. Would you like to reserve any time for rebuttal?
Not at the moment, but I'll be yielding. So, thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield the entirety of my time to Brenda Robertson from the Commission on Youth at Risk. I believe she'll be yielding 1 minute for rebuttal.
Okay, thank you. The speaker now recognizes Brenda Robinson. Brenda Robinson, would you like to reserve any time for rebuttal? Give us 1 moment. Okay.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Would you like to reserve any time for rebuttal?
Yes, I'd like to reserve 1 minute, please.
Okay. You now have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate Isari, for the introduction, and good afternoon, Madam Chair and the Assembly of Young Lawyers Division. I'm very happy to be here today. My name is Brenda Robinson, and I'm a child welfare certified specialist with Children's Law Center, and I have 22 years of practice as a dependency attorney. I want you to imagine yourself that you're at school. You are 8, 10, 12, maybe 16 years old. The day is over, you're waiting to be picked up by your mother or your father, and then all of a sudden you're called standing there, someone you don't even know, and they tell you that you're not going home today, that you're going to a foster home because a judge decided that you were not safe in the care of your parents. Or imagine that you knew you had a court hearing, that you are already a part of the foster care child welfare dependency system, and you have a court hearing on that particular day, and you are waiting dressed to go to court, but no one picks you up, no transportation. And then you get a call later in the day that tells you the outcome of the hearing, and it's not a good outcome. It's not what you wanted to hear. This is why Resolution 613 is so important, because children should have the presumptive right to be present at their hearings. It humanizes the case because a judge really only sees initials on a file. But when that child walks into the courtroom, there's a face to that file. And that judge recognizes more than ever that they're making decisions that could change the history of a family's life. I have worked in a courthouse in Lancaster. I'm in California. And I had a client who unfortunately got into a pretty bad altercation with her father. He pulled out a chunk of her hair and she had a big bald spot. And so when she came to court on the initial hearing, everyone had read the report, but she was sitting there with a scarf wrapped around her hair, wrapped around her head to cover her hair. She looked very nice. And I recall the judge looking down at her at that moment. And when he could put the face to the fact scenario and his conversation with her, it just changed the whole mood within the courtroom as he empathized with her and she shared about the incident and how it made her feel. Another time when I was in court, a mother walked in. She saw her child sitting there, was ashen because he had taken a bath that morning, but no lotion had been applied to his skin. And when she saw her child and he saw her, they hugged each other and she pulled lotion out to just rub his legs to cover the ashen. And everyone in the courtroom thought it was odd, but I, the attorney and the judge, we were both of color, looked and recognized that that mother was displaying her love to that child. Can you imagine how that could have been reported through the eyes of someone else? But the judge, seeing that, understood the level of care that that mother had for that child. It humanizes the cases. It's also important because the court gets to see the interaction between the child and the parent and other family members. There's another case I recall when a father was present in custody and his sons were present in the courtroom, and that's the first time they had seen their father since he had been incarcerated. And afterwards, the court allowed a visit, and it was right there within the courtroom. And it was so moving to see the children run up to their father and just hold him and cry as they got a chance to interact. Or for the father, the child for the first time that was born while he was in custody. These are the things that humanize these cases. It's also important because it empowers the child and improves their experience with the legal system. They begin to trust the judges more who have interaction with the court. It personalizes the judge for that child so that even though the court may not make the decision that the child wants, with that rapport, they become a trusted relationship. 97% of children want to attend their court hearings. 81% of them said that it was a good experience. However, they're not always brought to court. There's different barriers that affect that. And it's so important for this resolution to be passed in order for children to be present, in order to speak to their own futures. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We do not have a principal opponent to speak on this resolution. The first delegate or other person with speaking privileges to be recognized by the speaker as an opponent may speak for up to 6 minutes. Does any delegate wish to speak in opposition of this resolution? Seeing no further debate, the speaker now recognizes Brenda Robinson for a 1-minute rebuttal unless she chooses to waive.
Thank you. I just wanted to close with one last thing, and I appreciate that opposition. It's so important for this resolution to pass, and I'm grateful for each of you and hope that you do vote in accordance with it. And I just want to quote from an article that I co-authored with Judge Gray on this very issue. And in that article, we wrote, "A child's presence in court must be an exception, an expectation, not an exception." As a child who was surveyed in the 2015 Voices for Adoption said, quote, "Make sure that we too have a voice. I can't speak for everyone, but I feel better advocating for myself. Who knows the situation better than me anyway?" Close quote. And I want you just to think about that as you cast your vote and offer your support to this resolution. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak and allowing me to be present. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegates, please take a second and consider your vote. Now the question is on whether we as a body will support YLD Resolution 613. This motion takes a simple majority. Please listen to the instructions carefully. All those in favor of the motion to support, please vote by voting aye, which is yes, in your voting function. All those opposed, vote nay or no using the voting app. And those who abstain, please also do so in the app. Please cast your votes now. All right, time has elapsed. We will now give us a few seconds to tally the votes. All right, our votes are in. 96 yes, 10 no, and 7 abstain. The ayes have it, and the YLD has voted to support HOD Resolution 613. All right, we're almost at the end. We are at an exciting point, which is for us to hear from Shasta Inman, our clerk, regarding our social media raffle.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So thank you everyone for your participation. There we go. Now I'm in frame. Thank you everyone for your participation in the raffle. We were having some really amazing, exciting conversations on both Facebook and Twitter. I did receive 10 valid entries from credentialed delegates who are not officers. Sorry, officers, you are not eligible, but I have 10 and I have my handy D10 dice here, and we're going to roll for 2 winners. So the first winner, number 7, that matches 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Rich Rivera. And number 1 is going to be Blair Hlinka. So you will both receive some e-gift cards. Thank you so much for participating in social media. And congratulations again to the delegations who had full delegations, NANAVA, our national affiliate, and the states of Iowa, New Mexico, and North Carolina. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right. So excited for this time of the day. I really appreciate everyone's patience. Thank you so much to staff for working tirelessly for us to get to this point. Thank you to all of the resolutions team members, the credentials board team members, our clerk, obviously, all of the individuals who submitted and spoke on behalf of resolutions, especially those who were participating for the first time. I remember when I participated for the first time and I was thinking, oh my gosh, there's all these rules and things that I need to consider in order to be a participant in assembly. Everyone did amazing, and congratulations to you all. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Go ahead. All right. We had a motion by Eli Contreras to adjourn the meeting and a second by our secretary, Tamara Nash. Please listen for one last time to the instructions for today, as they are different due to the virtual nature. All those in favor of adjourning today's meeting, please use the voting function and vote aye or yes. All those who are opposed to ending today's meeting, please vote nay or no. And all those who abstain, please also do so in the voting function. Give us one last minute to make sure that we have our voting software ready for this last thing. You will need to actually go back in and rejoin the session. If you were kicked out, just click join session again. and give us 1 minute. And while we wait, this is the perfect opportunity if you haven't filled out the Practice Forward survey to go ahead and do that right now while we wait. Actually, you don't have to wait very long. Log back, make sure you log back into the session. And now you can cast your vote as to whether or not we will adjourn today's meeting. Cast your votes now. All right, we're gonna give people a couple more moments to re-log back in. Please re-log back into your turning point. We're gonna give people 20 more seconds to vote. You just need to re-log back into turning point to vote for this last thing. This is the last thing between us and leaving today. So re-log back in. We'll give people 20 more seconds to please cast your vote as to adjourn. All right, well, one person doesn't want to say whether or not they want to end today's meeting. That's okay. 99% of individuals said yes to adjourning today's meeting. And so the ayes have it. And today's ABA YLD 22 Midyear Assembly is now adjourned.
Recording stopped.